the generate series. I just go here and create a new table. So using generate series, we can generate the values. Okay, you can use a start value, and based on some incremental value, right, you can keep incremented till the end of that. Okay, generate series. Start value, end value, and increment value. At times we want to generate some values. Okay, based on some values we want to play around with it. Okay, I just wanted to go and see here start value. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm going to use a table generate series, because it is going to generate a series of values. Hence I'm going to use generate series function. Let's say you have something called starting value is 1.2, end value is 2.4. I want to increase the start value by 0.4. 1.2 plus 0.4, whatever value you get it, again you need to add with 0.4 until you get 2.4. Okay, if you want to do some kind of what if analysis, something like that, right, for the slicer you can use this one. Not only for what if analysis. One second, I just look here. 1.2, 1.6, 1.2 plus 0.4. Where is that thing? Generate series, right? So one second, it is not showing. Yeah, the 1 point starting value, end value 0.4. 1.2 plus 0.4 is 1.6. 1.6 plus 0.4 is 2. 2 plus 0.4 is 2.4. So this is how. So sometimes you need to create some slicer with based on this value you want to adjust your values. Okay, so in that kind of situation you can use generate series. And the next one is so yeah, we covered many things. Okay, the next one is we will take a look at the summarize function. Summarize function is one of the widely used function. It is very much very much helpful. What I do is I just go to the DAX studio and I will help you to understand how to use DAX also. We have something called DAX studio. You can go to the internet and download this and install it. This is the open source. It doesn't require any licensing, and also there is no limited duration. Okay, you can use it as long as you want it. The number one advantage of using DAX studio is, for example, at times we get confused, right? So one second, what is this? I just typed DAX studio, it was showing something else. DAX studio, right? Yeah, it is not open. Instead it opens something else. DAX studio, I just opened it. First of all, what is a summarize function? Right? It is an aggregation function. It is different from sum function. In the case of summarize function, it returns a table. It creates a table. The first argument is supposed to be table, and then the second one is the group by column name one. You can specify whichever column that you want to group it. You can specify more than one column also here. And the name, what is the name for the summarized column? Supposing you want to sum of the sales You can specify for that what name you want to specify, right? And likewise you can specify more than one name also, more than one expression also. So this is how we can use summarize function. Summarize, forget about evaluate at this moment, and summarize. The first argument is your table name, the second argument is the column which you want to group it, and the sum. So we want to see the total sales by region, total sales by region. And when I don't specify this, what will happen, it will it will not display any column name. You remember in SQL Server I have explained about as, right? As is alias, something like that. This is alias. You give some meaningful name for the aggregated value, and I want to do summarization for region, each region. So what do you mean by summarization by region? I just show you now. So this is DAX Studio. The moment when you open it, it will ask you if you want to connect to your existing report. Yes, you need to select that one first, like how I did it. And the next one is it will show all the measures, all the tables that you have used it as part of your Power BI report here. So this is what my Power BI report. So here, since I connected to this Power BI report using DAX, it shows all the measures that I'm using it here. The one advantage of DAX Studio is, importantly, see, we have created tables. We have created the data table raised to, and we have created measures. Sometimes, to create a measure, you need to go here, modeling tab, and click on the new measure, or you can go here. So for example, in our measure table, you just go and click on this one, create new measure. And if you want to create a calculated table, you need to go here and create it, right? So click on this one, it will take you to the data view, right? And this is where, instead of going back and forth, you might get confused. Can I use some the new measure, or do I have to use calculated table, or you will get confused going back here and there, right? So better when you use DAX Studio, you don't have that confusion. You can write everything in a single place. For example, evaluate. So you need to before you execute your DAX query, you need to specify evaluate, and the next one is this one, summarize the function. And the first argument is, in our case, fact sales, comma, the fact sales by location, comma, I need to specify the comma. And the next one, in the interest of readability, I don't specify everything in a single line, fact sales, and here I'm going to say the location key, comma, total sales by location. Okay, this is the column name. The next one is fact sales here. I did not use any sum here, right? Okay, so in not curly brace, you need to use open parenthesis and closed parenthesis. So here, the summarize function, for this summarize function, we have used the open parenthesis here, and we close this one promptly. But when you see here, right, we did not close this one. I need to use, which means I need to use one more parenthesis here. I just select everything and press F5. Either you can press F5 or you can use the run. If you click on this one, but in this case it is throwing an error. It shows the fact sales, right? So you need to give the proper name, fact sales. Query batch completed with errors. There is a syntax mistake here. Okay, there is syntax mistake here. Did I specify comma everywhere, right? So here, fact sales, the table name, first argument. Second argument is your location key, and third one is the total sales, and this one is the fact sales and sales amount. And here, what I am going to do is, I am going to use something called single quote here. You don't have to specify it. Sometimes it can cause that issues also. So in this DAX Studio, we have something called format query also. You don't have to manually do it. Okay, you just click on it. Whatever, even if you type it in a single line, it will automatically format it everything in a proper way. And in case of any syntax error, it will throw everything here. It will get highlighted like how in DAX it does, right? So in the Power BI desktop. So the same thing. What I do is, okay, instead of doing this here. Okay, so what is this fact sales? Fact sales is my table first argument. What is this location key? Location key is the grouping column, right? This is the look. For example, if you expand it here on the left side, you can see all that, like how you see the column names in the fields pane in report canvas, right? So on the right side, you can see the same thing. You can see it here. The next one is the total sales, and somewhere it shows, something like wrong here. Look here, fact sales I mentioned here. This is wrong here. Ideally it should be, we are doing summarize, right? It is not the table name, it should be expression name, right? So here what I do is, I'm going to, yeah, its table name is correct, but I did not specify the sum here. You need to use sum also here explicitly. Select everything, press F5. So look here, it is doing perfectly, right? You can see the output here itself. Now the question is, why should I try it here? Why can't I do it everything in the Power BI itself? As I told you, sometimes you might get confused. Summarize is a table calculated table, right? So you need to create the summarize. For example, if I want to create the same thing, I just go back and here, if I use mistakenly new measure, so to create a table, you need to go to new table and calculate a table, right? So to create a measure, you need to click here. So here, if I copy paste this one here, and if I say summarize total, something like that, okay? So measure you need to specify, isn't it? You need to specify the measure name. I just typed it. But in the here, you don't have to specify the measure name and all in the DAX Studio. Okay, you don't have to specify anything here. If I say, and if I click on OK, no error, right? Summarize measure. Okay, so next what I do is, I just remove all these things. Look here, it is throwing error, right? It is throwing error. Expression refers to multiple columns. Since it returns multiple columns, right? Multiple cannot be converted to scalar value. The measure in general, scalar value. What do you mean by scalar value? Single column. It returns only the measure. We can return only the single value, right? You cannot return more than one column. So it is throwing an error. So in this case, see, you wasted time, and then you go back to modeling tab. Oh man, it's supposed to be a table. You just go here, and then you need to change it here. It's waste of time, right? So here it is not like that. Whether it's a measure or it's a measure or it's a calculated table, you can create it, test it here without any hassle. You can do it. But the same thing, you need to use it here. But testing purpose, everything, right? Why you need to go to a new table, there put it, a new measure, then put it, right? You don't have to go to different places. Too much of back and forth, right? You need to go here and there. So it is pretty simple. And also you can, like I told you, execution plan in SQL Server. Here also the query plan, you can see it, how it access the data, right? So what is the logical query plan and physical query plan? You can see it in server timings. Importantly, when you click on the server timings, look here, this the moment when I click the server timings here in the menu, I can see that one got attached here. If you click here, At the bottom you can see the 0 millisecond, 0 millisecond, 0. So this is called the formula engine. This is your, the storage engine. This is a formula engine. It doesn't took much time, 0 millisecond. So it executed in a faster manner, especially when you work with huge volume of data. And if you see the millisecond is more for formula engine and the storage engine less, there is something wrong here. You need to fine tune it. Okay, ideally if you do it everything in the storage engine, the performance will be faster because it is asynchronous, whereas the formula engine is synchronous. It will get executed sequentially, one after another, right? So that is the one problem. I discussed it as part of the previous session also. In the introduction, right, we discussed about the architecture, the DAX architecture, Vertipack, all the things. So I should have given some other name. Sorry, I should have given the. It will say already this name exists. It's a table name. Okay, look here. Though I mentioned the same thing, look here. The table got created successfully. As I told you, the summarize function takes the first argument as a table name, and also it produces a table as an output. This is my summarize table. This is the one I created it. Where the hell is this? 1 second. Summarize. You need to click on this one. Look here. Each region, what are the total sales? Group by. You can do group by with summarize function. So the group by location. If you want to, have more than one, group by column, you can use this one. Okay. 1 second. It is hanging like that. So summarize function is used for group by. If you want to do some kind of group by, you can do it. And also we have something else called roll up function. Okay, the roll up function in summarize compute the subtotals for the specified columns. If you want to do some kind of subtotals, you can do it. For example, Bangalore and Pune, right? So you want to do some kind of subtotal. In that case, this is very much helpful. I'll just show you with one example so that you'll be able to understand. So remember that summarize function is meant for doing aggregation. Not only sum, you can do whatever thing, right? So you can use sum or whatever you want, you can use it. It's not going there. Okay, this is my grouping column. Which column you want to group it, right? So the aggregation column name, what name you want to give it. So before that, I just go here. So you need to click on the output or results, right? The results here. This is the column name, total sales. Can you see it? So this is the aggregation column name. I want to give some meaningful name here. So that look here, total sales. And this is my group by column. Which column you want to group it? See, in each location, multiple transactions would have happened, right? Sum all the sales we made in Bangalore, sum all the sales we made in Pune. That is what the summarize function is doing it. But here it behaves exactly like your SQL query is group by. So this is a group by column. Which column? See, I'll just write you the query equivalent to this. Select. If you ask me to write a SQL query, how sum of, sorry, instead of typing it, I just copy paste this one. Select sum of sales amount, and from which table? Fact sales, right? Fact sales. For you people to understand this, I just type it in the SQL form. Okay, the comments, multi-line comment, the whatever the multi-line comment we use it in SQL, so same thing is applicable. So one way it is easier if you have already worked on SQL Server, the syntax, everything, right? You don't have to explore separately. So group by, this is the column. Hope you understood what my DAX query is doing it with summarize function. This is the SQL query. I have written in SQL language for you people to understand this query, right? So here the order is different. first, you need to specify the table name. Second, you need to specify the group by column name. This is a group by column name. And the third one is the sum function, right? But in the query, we specify this way. In SQL query, if you want me to do this one, right, we use this. It is equivalent to this query. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. The next one is we'll try with the rollup function. I just reuse this one and I just make some changes here. The rollup function, I just go to the syntax part here. Rollup DAX functions. See the rollup function, it takes the group by column name, right? So this is how it takes the values. With example, if I tell you, you will be able to. So the rollup function modifies the behavior of the summarize function by adding rollup rows to the result on column defined by the group by column name. This can be used only within a summarize function. You cannot use it as a main function, okay? It is a sub function, you just think that way, okay? Here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say rollup function. I'm going to say, this one, the rollup function, and then what I'm going to do is location key. Instead of total sales, I'm going to say the total rows, something that, okay, total rows. How many number of records are there in the fact sales for each location? We want to see that. Number of records are different, right? So here in this case, I need to use count function. Count function will give you the total number of records, right? So fact sales, instead of order, we can use the order number. It makes sense. Order number. And then what I am going to do is, so this is the one, total rows, rollup function, and fi. Using rollup function, we can get the subtotal for the rows, okay, for the groups. Error connecting to, some problem happened connecting to this one. So I need to close this. It is a little more time. Keep your eyes and ears open and watch how I do here. This time at least. DAX Studio, when I click on it, it will ask you for the connection details. So you need to open you need to open the Power BI report already. Only then you should be able to connect to that. Okay, since look here, it is asking for table or server, or this is for SSAS. Anyway, we are not going to work on SSAS. We are interested in Power BI. So here it will show you if you have opened multiple Power BI files, reports, right? It will show you all the files. In our case, I have opened only one file. So only one report file. Connect to this report file. And then this one is already there, and fi, oh my god, I should have saved that one. So anyhow, I just go and specify this one inside the rollup function, rollup function, and end with this one, rollup function. So in this case, it will give you the overall total also along with this. fi, look here, it gives you the overall total, right? This subtotal, this kind of subtotal. So all these. So in the previous case, it was just showing the region-wise sales only, right? So it shows, location-wise, each location, what is the total sales. And if you want to add all the things together, then you can use rollup. Now rollup gives everything, all right? Fine. With rollup, you are able to understand how. So if you want to add more than one column here, you can specify that one also. For example, if you want to add fact sales, I'll do one by one. But whatever command that you want to execute it, the DAX query, you need to enclose it with evaluate, okay, the open brace. That's all. It's pretty simple. And what I am going to do is I just copy this column. Rollup, what I am telling the DAX, right? You need to find out the subtotal, display the subtotal of the product ID. So here, instead of saying total sales, I just give some meaningful name, rows count, so the total number of records. Okay, this is not a total sales. The previous one is, yeah, here I'm going to use something like count. Order number, that's it. So here I just go and say, look here, it tells me how many number of rows are there in each location, right? So in each location, P03 we sold 2 times in Bangalore, and P04 we sold 2 times. So this in Pune, look here, up to this LLR, right? Bangalore, Kolkata. In Kolkata, P008 we sold it once, and if you click on this one, it will sort it, and if you click on it one more, it will show. So with this you should be able to, in Chennai P005 we told this product we sold 10 times, right? And this product we sold 4 times. So with this, you know, and one second, I just show you this one. Yeah, now if you scroll down here, in Mumbai, what is the total, the subtotal? In Mumbai, how many number of products in total we sold? In Pune, how many number of total products we sold? It does the subtotal, right? Subtotal. So now you understood how powerful the roll-up is, right? If you combine the roll-up with summarize, you can get all the things. So you might be wondering, you might be asking, this is the same thing, I can do it with the sum function or sum function, right? So then, but in sum function you cannot do group by, but here with summarize you can do group by, and combined with the combination of roll-up, you can find out, you can do group by, you can do the subtotal also, you can find out the subtotal with this one, right? It is very much helpful, the roll-up function. Hope you understood how the roll-up function is worked. The roll-up in summarize computes subtotals for the specified columns. For these columns, right, it computed the total number of records in this case. So how do I deduct the subtotal? Here it is a bit difficult to find out the subtotal. So that is where you have something else called is subtotal function is available. Is subtotal. I just copy paste this one more time, so that in case I make any mistake, syntax mistake, we can revert back. So here what I'm going to do is location subtotal. We can give some meaningful name so that it will be easier for you to refer it back. Okay, is subtotal function. Here I'm going to do fact sales. Here I'm going to say the location key, right? So location key, and you can either press the F5 key to execute this one, or you can go here and click run query. So I prefer F5 key in my F5. I just clicked on F5. Look here, this is not a subtotal, this is not a subtotal. If you scroll down here, you can find okay, so it's a location key, right? Okay, what I do is, in this case, we can see only this is the subtotal, true, for the location key, and this is whatever the product ID. Here I should have mentioned product ID. If I use product ID, let's see what happens. So in this case, if you keep scroll down, look here, this is a subtotal for product ID, right? So in Delhi we sold 11 products in total, and Kolkata we sold 6 products, and LLR 1, and Bangalore 12, and in Chennai 21. So this is the thing, right? So you can see the subtotal also. If somebody is asking you, hey, tell me in Bangalore per P001 how many number of products, P003, but and also I want to know in Bangalore in total how many number of products we sold. That is what it displays, 12. So you can compare this one here, right? So 1 plus 2 is 3, 4 plus 3 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So sorry, 2, 3, 4 and 7 plus 3, 10, 11, and 1 is missing here, the Bangalore somewhere here. You can do it here. So in Bangalore 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it's correct only, right? So 12. So this is the total for true. So this true tells you the total, how many number of products in total we purchased Bangalore. All these things put together. Instead of looking at product wise, how many number of items we sold. So in Bangalore, in total, how many? Your manager might be asking the report something like that, isn't it? So this is pretty much helpful. So to summarize, using summarize function, you can do group by, and coupled with the roll-up function, you can find out the subtotal. You can specify more than one column. So what are the column? And also you can specify one more column also, location ID, something like that. Okay. In this case, count of fact, order, number we have given, right? Okay, no problem. Let it be there. Fine. So the is subtotal function, it returns the logical value true or false if the corresponding row contains a subtotal for the column indicated as an argument, right? So it returns true. That means the is subtotal function returns true. This is basically help us to understand, is this a subtotal? No, right? This is not the subtotal. This is the subtotal 12. With the help of the true, you can easily identify, for this city, this is the overall total product we sold, and for this total true, right? So likewise you can find out. That is the the thing. And we have something called summarize columns function. Using summarize column function, you can we can do both the row context as well as the filter context, which will be active in the expression. Okay, something like it is already 7 o'clock. I thought of completing time intelligence function. Man, it goes like hell. Evaluate summarize columns. Here I just go and say summarize columns. Okay, and here I just go and say I see, as the name suggests, it is summarize columns. The first argument is supposed to be columns. Okay, DAX. It's not like table. In summarize function we have used table. In summarize columns, the first argument is the group by column name. You need to specify the group by column name, which column you want to group it, right? So, and group by column name, and filter condition based on some filter condition. Group by column here is, let's say, right? So I'm going to say group by location key. That's all. I'm not going to use anything else. Let's start with a simple one, and comma, and next one is the I'm going to say, yeah, that's all. I'm going to say location, and here I'm going to say sales by location. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use SumX function. You can use SumX function. Instead of using some function, you can use the fact sales. And for example, you want to do some fact sales list price into the fact sales so you can use the row context. SumX is a row context. If I execute this one, let's see, it is throwing an error, right? So here query batch, it's not producing an output. Okay, SumX function. Oh, SumX, I did not use the parenthesis, right? That's why always once you finish your queries, you need to click on this one. So this one is this one, and here it is not required. I mentioned 2 times. 1 time is enough. And for this, the corresponding is this one. And you select this one and format query and long line. If you click on this, it does the formatting automatically. Okay, so now what I am going to do is I just select this and press F5. It is doing perfect job, right? So boom, it's doing a great job with summarize columns, right? you can so the summarize column. What is the difference between summarize and summarize columns? The summarize keeps the both the row context and the filter context active in the expression, where you specify the aggregation, or whereas the summary columns provides the filter context only, no row context. That is the difference between summarize columns and summarize function. Oh, sorry, it is 1 second, let me just reconfirm. Yes, correct. So that is the difference between these two. Any questions so far? The summarize function is very popular function. Okay, you are not supposed to forget that one, and that is very much important. Okay, so you need to remember that. So the difference you understood, the difference between the summarize and the summarize columns, right? The both of them are more or less same, right? You can do you can implement the same functionality with both these summarize as well as summarize function. Okay, so but there are right, so this is the one. So now I just tell you one more thing, difference, right? So summarize columns, I just go and copy paste this. So most of them, they get stuck up here. I just go and create a measure. Since it is a column, can I create it as a measure? I think we need some more time. So tomorrow what we will do is, tomorrow we'll continue the time intelligence and the top n and rank x function, summarize columns calls, right? That's it. So here it is not required, and I'm going to say okay. I thought of finishing it a little bit faster, because you are already familiar with DAX now, right? You don't need any, you look here, when I created this one, the expression refers to multiple columns. Just because the function name ends with columns, we cannot decide, or we cannot say upfront it is a, we can create a measure. We cannot create a measure using summarize columns and summarize also to conclude, and you need to use calculated table to create either the summarize or summarize columns function. So in general, the summarized function, summarized columns, right? That is the one gives you the optimized query plan. So the recommended one is, right, you can use the summarized columns, okay? And new measure, sorry, not new measure, new table, sorry, since I was talking. See, instead of creating this one, we are going to use a table, the same thing, okay? I'm going to use a table for this one, okay? So, but you would have understood how faster to execute or test your DAX queries using DAX, right? It's pretty fast. So here mistakenly I clicked measure, no, I and then I realized again you need to click table, calculate table, So whether to use a new table, whether to use a new measure, you get confused when it comes to Power BI desktop. When it comes to DAX, you don't have to have that confusion. It is pretty straightforward, right? You don't have to worry about go here, go there, and go and put your queries and execute it. You don't have to worry about that. Everything is in a single place. It's something like one-stop shop. So remember that you can use summarize function wherever it is required in place of summarize function, because what the Microsoft they recommends is summarize columns is much faster compared to the summarize function. So new table, I should have used a new table for that, but most of them they get confused when they hear the term columns. Summarize columns, I should be able to create a measure. No, both summarize as well as summarize functions, columns, you are supposed to use calculate table only in Power BI desktop to create the thing. Okay, summarize calls, that's it. Right, we will wrap up the training. We have something called add columns, summarize columns, add columns also boost your query DAX queries performance. Okay, and add columns, using add columns, how we can create the the calendar function, calendar table, and we will take a deep dive in the time intelligence function tomorrow. Okay, even the 2 hours time is not that much helpful to complete everything. Anyhow, let us not rush. There is no point in rushing and completing it. Anyhow, we are on the edge of everything, right? We completed everything. Only thing is the time intelligence also very important. Look here, it got created successfully. Summarize calls, summarize. Look here, the table got created, no error, nothing. Whereas here, when I try to create, there's a measure intentionally I created, it was showing you cannot use measure to create the summarize columns. Look here, summarize call, these are the thing, right? So you can see it here. Summarize columns, you can use summarize columns, do the row by row context, and this one, this is, and don't get confused with the naming convention. I need to rename summarize function. Simply say summarize table. That's all. Fine. Okay. So with this, I'm going to wrap up, and tomorrow we will continue with the time intelligence function, month to date, year to date, and parallel period, and the dates add function, total, YTD, MTD, QTD, everything will sit. It's all very simple one. Okay, we'll wrap up everything. Okay, add columns, the rest of them. All right. Fine. Any questions so far? Any questions? I just enable you to speak. Most of them, they did not join today. They missed out the session. Tomorrow also I have to stretch, right?